welcome everyone. So Dirk, if you have a brief introduction about yourself or your background or something you'd like to share before we start, please go ahead. In the meantime, I'll work on getting your presentation on screen.
Okay, all right. Well, basically, I'm just, I come from a long generation of farmers, so I'm a bit farming. I didn't start to really understand it until later in life. And then I got involved in permaculture. I've practiced it pretty much all over the world, so I understand all the climates. It's fantastic to see a lot of African faces there. I've spent lots of time in Africa. And yeah, that's it. It's basically all about sustainability and how we can achieve that within our communities is where I'm focused. I'm not completely sustainable yet, but I'm on the path. So I'm a practitioner. I'm not really a teacher unless you're out in the fields with me or the food forest. So this is a first. This is a first for me. So it's going to be kind of question and answer, basically. So as long as everybody's familiar with permaculture, sustainable agriculture, there's all kinds of new words coming out for it nowadays, but it's probably the biggest growth industry on the planet right now, and we need to address it.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you for being on with us today, Dirk. And for our school, one of our focuses is the, contributing to solving problems in the world, to using our unique talents to make a contribution. One of the things we talk about in taking the AIU pledge is that each of our students, regardless of what field they're in, they can contribute, for example, to one of the 2030 UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, that includes food security, it includes agriculture, it includes water management and animal welfare. So I think a lot of what you can bring to bear today can address several of those goals, and our students can benefit from your knowledge. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, you're welcome. And I mean, it's got to be an interaction. Like I said, I'm not a professor. I'm a practitioner, so I'm the guy with my hands in the soil. So I kind of understand what works and what doesn't work, and I've been at it for quite a while. So yeah, all right.
Fantastic. Can you see the slides clearly?
I can, yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay. So I gotta bring this up so I can see it. How do I get to the next slide here, Ricardo?
Oh, just I will gladly scroll along. So whenever you want me to move along,
okay.
I will do so. So I'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh no, I see it. Okay. Okay. So basically, this is what permaculture is, or sustainable agriculture, whatever you want to call it. But permaculture, I did my permaculture design course with the founders, Bill Mollison and Jeff Lawton. And Bill Mollison basically saw what was going on in Australia and stuff like that, and the soils being depleted and stuff like that, and tried to understand, okay, how in nature it works. The systems keep working, and they don't need a lot of chemicals or outside involvement. So how do we bring that to agriculture is essentially what it is. And I've lost my
oh, let me repost it. Sorry, we switched hosts,
okay,
and that interrupted the slides. Let me repost it 1 second.
Okay. Burkina. Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Is it back? Okay.
Yeah,
good.
it's back.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right. It's a very simple kind of concept you can see there, right? Basically, you have to begin with your soil. Without good soil, nothing, you can't produce anything, right? But everything is together to produce good soil. It's what you grow in order to replenish that soil and things like that. And what's not sustainable is using fertilizers and chemicals when you can do it naturally. Now, having said that, doing it naturally is not effortless. It takes knowledge, and it takes mostly time and just learning what the processes work. And within whatever environment, and you have to understand your climate and what you have to do in order to mitigate the climate in order to produce food. So we have food, shelter. These are the most important things about permaculture, because permaculture, as far as how you live too, it's not just growing food, it's how you live and how you treat your community and other people, and how we can participate as humans together in order to make our lives sustainable. What's going on in the world right now, especially in North America and stuff, these massive monocultures. Now the soils are depleted, and unless you keep adding products like companies from Monsanto and stuff, you're not gonna produce another crop. Fortunately, there's enough of us out there, you don't hear too much about it, that have realized that, and we're starting to change the way we farm. So whether it's just a garden in your backyard, or if you've got 10 sections of land that you're farming, we have to involve the premise of nature in order to reproduce our food. So just fire questions at me. That's going to be the easiest way we can get through this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So everyone, if you can, please raise your hand if you would like to make a comment, or if you have a question for Dirk so far in the presentation. As far as myself, Dirk, I'm very happy to hear about these issues, because I think even from satellites, from space, we can detect in North America and other countries when it's tilling season. Like, in other words, when the big machines go and open up the earth, to kind of till the land, there's a tremendous release of carbon that is detectable from space. And that's basically from the aerating of the soil, which, is harmful for the microorganisms
Right.
living there, because it exposes them to UV light and all these things. And we till the land to add fertilizer and add all these things that you're discussing. So that's just the one element of the soil. And we have a question from Thomas. Let's see. Let me ask you, Thomas, to unmute first. Dirk, did you have any comments on that, on the tilling that's detectable from satellites, and whether you think that's harmful or not to the soil, the
Well,
tilling of the soil?
no, absolutely, absolutely. You don't need to till soil. The organisms within the soil, you have to keep those healthy. So it's very important of understanding, for one thing, your soil, what's in your soil, how to create good soil, and what keeps that soil there. Thus, I mean, agroforestry, right, is a new. Basically, it's been around forever, but now these massive farms are just not sustainable. You can't. We have to go to more focused, smaller farms that everybody works in conjunction with the other, one producing one thing, the other producing other, and share. These massive farms have just been based on greed, basically, corporations, big money involved, but it's the end of it. it's not, we can't continue it. It's ending. It's sustainability. It's like if you walk into a Walmart and you just see the consumerism going on, you just have to stand there and watch and go, it's not sustainable. We can't keep doing that. And you can't recycle a lot of these products, right? It's just, where is it going? Yet we can continue to consume and consume and consume and consume. And that's these massive monoculture and thing. I mean, they had a purpose at the time, but now it's finished. We can't do it anymore.
And monoculture, when you say monoculture, it's basically having a humongous large field with one
Right.
strain, one crop, basically dependent upon, in other words, it looks like, Dirk, the farmers around the world are investing all of their capital into maybe buying the seeds from monocultures, or
Yes.
genetically modified. They're investing all of their funds in fertilization, where what should they be investing their money in instead?
Diversity, understanding your soils and diversifying your crops. So rotating the crops is so important, right? So maybe one season you grow corn and then the next season you grow wheat, or you grow rice and then you grow wheat. And then you don't need to add fertilizers to the soil. These crops that you produce the first time will create nitrogen and carbon within that soil and replenish the soil and allow the microorganisms to do their thing. So we have to get our mind away from a massive profit and more to what we started with, and that's growing food and feeding people, right?
Right.
We obviously need money, so you have to in the perfect world for me would be, I can trade tomatoes to go have a beer or whatever, trade tomatoes for rice or something like that. That to me is the perfect system, but we don't live there. So you need to produce food, but you have to involve your community. So permaculture is so much about community, and you need to involve your neighbors in what you're doing. Your neighbors have to agree, and then you can share your products and share your knowledge.
Thank you, Dirk. Let me go to Teboho Mosikili.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon. Great to see you. Welcome.
All right, all right. Just a question. What comes to mind as I'm listening to the talk now is now the evolution of, let's say, food production. I'm remembering now there was now the issue of now fertilizers at some point. It seems now around the 1930s, before the Second World War, which now scientists solved by now how to use nitrates and all that for fertilizers. So now the production, it seems now, is not everyone that is in food production. You have now issues of now even access to land for most people. So now, when you are talking to me like now, this crop rotation, I'm thinking now of the challenges. For example, if you're a farmer, you have your processing also now done for a specific, let's say, crop. Né? So now every time you're changing your crop that you are farming, it would mean now disruption of also now your processing plant, for example, now. So would that also not be a factor in terms of now how to make your farm more maybe efficient? Because now, yeah, well and good that you want to change a crop, but is it practical? That's my question.
I guess that is all based on what scale. Now, if you're an industrial farmer managing like thousands, and this is the issue, is that we have these massive pieces of land and we're so focused on growing that one crop, everything that we've put into it is based on that one crop. So diversification in that instance is going to cost money, because you're going to have to change your processing methods or add a processing method. But a lot of crops and the processing, you can use the same technology and adjust it. Like wheat and corn, you can use the same technology and adjust it. Harvesting is a little bit different, but it's what I'm saying is that's why these massive farms are no longer sustainable, because you can't do that. So it's much better to create a farm where you're diversified in the beginning, smaller, and then there will be somebody processing. If you're just growing corn and your neighbor has the processing to process the corn, you can bring it to your neighbor. And if you have the processing for wheat, you can. But that's not what's happening. It's gotten too big. It's gotten the money.
It's kind of like the shared economy. Like, in other words, one of the greatest wastefulness that we have on planet Earth today, for example, is, let's say that I have a camera. I might use that camera, like a very nice camera, I might use it for maybe 30 minutes a week, or maybe an hour per week. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, there are 24 hours in the day times 7 days. So there's 164 hours in the week that somebody else could have been using that camera if we somehow found a way to share that. So I guess it's similar, where you have these large farms, and it's near each other. They all have their own processing plants. Well, they could get together, as Dirk is suggesting, saying, okay, well, you know what? You specialize in corn, you specialize in wheat, you specialize in whatever, tomato packaging. And that way they can all have in their field multiple crops. They just move one relatively nearby to that processing plant, I guess. So it's kind of like the shared economy, which applies to all things, including agriculture, including our cars. I think very soon, maybe in a few years, we'll be able to park our car at work and then say goodbye to our car. In other words, our car is not going to be waiting there for us for 8 hours. Our car is going to be able to go pick up somebody else and take them to work, and do that over and over and over again. So one vehicle, 2 tons of raw materials can be utilized to serve 10 people instead of one.
Right.
And that's kind of at the core of this sustainable sustainable development and the shared economy. Thank you, Teboho, for your contribution and observation. Go ahead. Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure. No, I saw the hands. I thought it was a hand up, but it's just something else. Okay. Charles, I see your hand up. Do you have a comment or question?
Yes, a comment and also a question. Where I come from in Nigeria, we have practiced for ages the practice of crop rotation.
Yes.
But then, as time went on, and we didn't know what a fertilizer was, and people could easily do that because they could leave a certain land to fallow, for a while before they come back to it. But, as population grew, people could no longer leave these lands to fallow. And so it means that they'll have to cultivate it nearly every year. And as a result of that, the production started to deplete. And so people had to start thinking of using fertilizers. Right. So in such a situation, how do people take care of their own situation? Thank you.
Yeah, you need to involve, you can't just focus on growing a crop. You need to focus on also what kind of fruit trees, this is agroforestry. So You're putting your crops in between fruit trees, and the fruit drops and it supplies nitrogen to the soil. Maybe you have chickens or ducks, and then their waste is producing the fertilizer for the soil. It has to be a circular. This is what permaculture is that nature, the circular things of nature, using animals, different kind of plants. Then you can avoid the fertilizer, and you'll see your production is so much healthier and better when you incorporate these things. Like rabbit poop is the most incredible fertilizer you can get. It's way better than anything I can buy from a agricultural store, or chicken manure. And so this is what I'm saying, is that we have to diversify. These massive farms are just, you can't sustain them unless you're extremely wealthy, and then that just creates the whole thing all over again, right? You have to keep these crops going in order to maintain your machinery because of the cost of it. So if you diversify, and you have water, you have a water resource, and you have ducks in that water resource, and you can use that water resource to irrigate your food production, and then you can take the waste of your other animals, and that fertilizes the food production. It even works with human waste, right? If you do it correctly, right? So it's just to create a cycle that everything goes back into the soil, and then the soil produces again. But you must economize, and we must rely on each other. We must economize and use the community in order to create the resources, right? It's a mistake to think, okay, I'm going to have a farm and I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, right? Which has obviously been happening in the world, and that's where we are today. So how much do we need? How much do we need? And how much can we both give to the community, and it returns to us? So it has to be diversity. A farm has to be diverse. And you'll see the people that survive in an economic crisis are these farmers that they're growing their own vegetables. They're growing enough wheat that they can make bread. They produce their own protein. So whether you have a pond and it's fish in it, or you have chickens or whatever, and then all that goes back into growing your food again. This is permaculture.
So basically, instead of, let's say, hypothetically, pesticides, you have, whether it's ducks or chickens or something that will pick out the insects. So not only do they do that service for you, but with an entrepreneurial spirit, with a spirit of experimentation, you could convert some, you could generate additional income from those lines, whether it's
Absolutely.
rabbits or ducks or other things. So how would someone go about integrating this? It's kind of I guess, as a series of step-by-step experiments where you say, okay, let me bring in an additional line, whether it's some animal or some
Right.
other source, and little by little you scale it up.
Yes. Okay. Well, as you grow, you can scale it up, and as your experience grows, which is the most important thing. But the way to initiate that is your community, right? Talk to your neighbors. How do you do it? Get some chickens or get some ducks from them and start with it and see how they're working it, and then see how it integrates into your food production, right? Your vegetable production. And I mean, you can do it fairly quickly, but it's expensive, and you're paying for the knowledge. To do it yourself, you start on a small scale. I mean, you can be in a city or a town, and maybe you only have 1 meter of earth that gets some sun. You can start with that. And then once you understand your soil, which is the most important, on what you need to have good soil, maybe you're starting with clay, you could be starting with sand, it doesn't matter. But once you know how to make good soil, that's your foundation. And then everything after that is like adding another accessory to the car you buy, right? It's just going to help it. It's just going to make life easier. So the beginning stages of sustainability, I'm sorry about the dogs. We've got a lot of, our neighbors have a dog rescue. So every once in a while they go off. Sorry about that. But yeah, we're kind of in a rural environment here. You're in my home. We're in between the mountains and the sea. And so yeah, it's the best I can do.
We have the hand up from Abdoulaye. If it's possible for you to start your video, that would be great. Abdoulaye. Great, we can see you. Oh, but let me see if I can ask you to unmute. There we go, perfect. Oh, it looks like, Abdoulaye, it looks like maybe you can switch audio devices. If you go to the microphone, you may be able to switch your microphone to a different device. In the meantime, while you figure that out, let's go to Teboho.
All right, thank you very much, Rick. Rick, I just need to ask now. I had now the suggestion of using also rabbit poo as fertilizer. All right, how do I fertilize then the soil? Remember now, I'm getting a sense that permaculture is saying don't till the soil. How do I fertilize? Do I just throw the rabbit poo on the soil and it's just on top, and then you know, as I work,
Yes.
remember now.
Yes, absolutely, that would work. I mean, in Canada, they're doing it. It's with pig manure or whatever. They spray it on top of the soil, and then the microorganisms. It depends on the size of your operation too, right? Obviously, if you're going to do a section of land, you need a lot of rabbits, but you can put it on top of the soil. The best thing you can do with soil, and it's what I do with my soil, is in the winter when I don't have a garden. I cover my soil with cardboard. I cover it with all the dead weeds that I've and then keep that, and then the organisms in there turn that into better soil. It's just food for the worms. But yes, you can just throw it on top of your soil. And it's a really difficult subject to actually talk about unless you can touch the soil and know the environment that you're in. I can go anywhere, and I can go to your garden and I can look at the soil and I can see what's wrong with it. And so then the problem becomes the solution once you understand what's wrong with the soil. But basically, yes, to your question is yes, you can just put it right on top of the soil, and nature will take care of integrating that in. The organisms in the soil, the weather. I mean, but then if it's an area that has tons of wind that's going to blow it away, then you have to look at creating a windbreak. Do you understand? So
yes, I mean, I think one of the things,
it's just not one thing.
Right. One of the things I think is having plants intermittently that have deeper roots, that have,
Yes.
you know, instead of being, you know, you can't just harvest the crop and then expect that the soil is going to be healthy, just bare. It has to have something on top of it. And of course, once it starts having some things on top of it, if you have livestock or other things, you know, fertilizing it for you, it can definitely retain more of it for you. If when it rains, it doesn't just wash away because the dirt is alive, it'll hold all of the moisture in the soil. A lot of times, large fields, if you get a little rain, that little rain, as soon as it gets on the field, it drains away and washes away some of the soil because there's no roots, there's no, you know, it's the dirt is not alive.
Right. exactly. It's
Ab-
cover crop.
Abdullah, yeah, do you want to try again? Is your mic working? Let me ask you to unmute. Let's see. Okay. Not yet. Not yet. For some reason, your audio device is different, so it's not on. You can try experimenting with some other options, and as soon as we hear you, we'll let you go. Angel, Mvati. Hi, Angel. Do you have a question or comment?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes,
Yes.
perfectly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in a place where I can't start my video.
It's okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. It's a very interesting presentation. So I'm looking at, like most of these African countries, we have untapped land, whereas people, they really want to do the farming in the other areas that people are not access to it. But they have a problem, whereas you are told, for example, I work here in Tanzania, but I have a farm in Kenya, and where that farm is, it's interior. Many people are not there. The only thing I could do to that farm is to put palm trees. Although
Okay.
I want also to do, let's say, to put other crops so that the farm can be more active. So I really don't know whether it's the problem of the soil, or it's these crops, they have issues where they can work it here and they cannot grow in that area. What are the best practices whereas to make our lands to be productive, like you can farm any crop at any land at any time?
Well, I mean, the most important thing is water, right? Is there water? Like, how do you deal with how do you deal with water, like for your and how is the palm plantation? Is it like a palm oil plantation where everything's so close together that you cannot grow crops in between? Or do you have the ability that there's enough sun that you can grow crops in between the palms? Palms are fantastic because they're a great windbreak. They provide shade. So it's understanding what kind of soil conditions you have. And the most important thing is your access to water. If you have
Angel,
if you have access to water, then making your soil fertile is just some work.
Okay, does it mean that it is only water that make the land more productive, or is there any, okay, how do I put it? Is there any nutrition that the land needs?
Oh no, for sure. So okay, take water off the table. Then you need to analyze your soil. You need to look at the soil, like if it's acidic or if it's alkaline, and then look at, okay, what kind of crops are profitable in that area that prefer an acidic soil, or you can change the pH of your soil as well. And you can do it very, very cheaply. Like, just an example is crushed shells from seafood that you can get for free anywhere. If you crush them up and your soil is high in acid and you apply that to your soil, it's going to bring the pH down so that you have an alkaline soil, and then look at the crops that will grow there. It's a process of trying as well, trying certain things, but maybe you can find neighbors that maybe have a small garden of their home and you can see what they're growing successfully. And then you can take it to a larger scale. It's just, you've got to get your hands in the soil. But if water is out of the, if you don't have to worry about water, then to change the soil is an easy process. Actually, it's time consuming, but it's not a difficult process.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
thank you, Dirk. I have a couple of comments here in the chat. One comment from Onais in Pofu. Onais, if you want to ask your question, I'll be happy to unmute you if you raise your hand. If not, I'll ask it on your behalf. Onais asks, there's a new agriculture system called syntropic, where a farmer mixes different trees. Is this permaculture or something different, he asks?
It's permaculture. It's just that, like I said, there's all kinds of new words for it now. But yes, it's permaculture. It's using what's available in nature in order to produce in a sustainable way. And sustainability is also about having to work less. Actually, if you integrate these systems, then you don't need to be out tilling your garden all the time. You don't need to be. It should take care of itself. If you build a proper food forest, or nature will take care of itself. Now, having said that, you can't just go, okay, I can do that and nature will take care of it. It'll be, because it's our tastes too. We want to eat certain foods and stuff like that. So we can just exist off perennial foods, but no, it's boring. So you need to grow your own vegetables, right? So the work has to come in at some point, but this is work when you're in the soil. It's just healthy mentally as well. So that is also sustainable to ourselves. So anybody that says that we can just live off a food forest and have perennial stuff like that, yeah, you can, but you're going to sacrifice your taste buds.
We have a question from Ang. Ang, I don't know if you want to ask the question yourself or.
Hello.
Hi, Ang.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello, sir. So,
from Myanmar.
Yes, sir. Myanmar, sir. Rakhine State.
Rakhine State. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful.
Sir, so the organization I'm currently working is with our agriculture. So in our agriculture, in the rural areas, we provide we train the pesticide, biopesticide. It's a kind of our natural fertilizer. And we also train to the beneficiaries. And we give them we distribute the seeds, and we also give them the training how to make the biopesticide fertilizer. So we don't let them use the organic chemical fertilizers, because in our country there's a lot of our chemical fertilizers are coming in from mainland and other countries. So people are using a lot, and they think that the crops grow 10 times than they got in the past. So like our organization, there are only 2 or 3 other organizations we are working, but I'm really proud of engaged in these activities. So is this also a kind of agriculture farmer fertilizer that you have been discussing?
Well, you know what, I lived in Myanmar.
Yes.
I was in a rural area just south of Dawei. Do you know Dawei?
Oh, yes, I know Dawei.
In the south. Okay. So I spent a year there. I built it was for a exploration camp, and I built a garden to produce our own vegetables, and created an aquaponics operation there. And I used just the local goat manure that I got, and I broke it down, and I started putting it in, because the soil in the jungle is clay. Now you think in a jungle you should be able to grow anything. It's not possible. The ground is so hard. My carrots were the size of my baby finger and things like that. So I had to understand which crops that you can eat, grow better in that soil. But it was through integrating the waste from the goats, which was the only thing I could find. And we had chickens and I had ducks, and the water from the ducks during the dry season. That's where I got my water for the vegetables. But there, I mean, the tropical growing is more difficult actually than growing in a multi-climate zone like Canada or something like that. We have much more diversity in what vegetables we can grow than you can actually grow in the tropics, because you're either dry, hot, or rain. So yeah, Myanmar was very interesting, but a lot of it worked, a lot of it didn't. But at the end, we were producing our own food.
Okay, sir.
Right, and the aquaponics was so interesting there because there is such a vast amount of water, and then what I did, I used solar to run the pumps, and then my production from, I was just growing lettuce in the aquaponics. It's the easiest thing in aquaponics, but
Yes, sir.
to grow the lettuce in the ground took months. In the aquaponics, it took weeks before we could start to eat it. So, and that was just, we weren't eating the fish. I was just taking random fish I could find anywhere, that just to produce the fertilizer from the fish. And the next stage would have been to actually put fish that we could harvest as well. And it was something that the locals weren't familiar with, right? The locals, yeah, they're growing a few vegetables and stuff like that. The poverty was like by my standard, intense.
Yes, sir.
People weren't starving, but I mean, like in comparison to our standards, the poverty was massive. But
Yeah.
just
Still, yes, sir.
yeah, but showing them how to produce food. You know, you think you go to an area and they've lived for generations, they know how to grow vegetables and stuff like that, but there's a lack of understanding of the things that you can add into it that make it, you know, more sustainable, I guess, right? And that they can create a bigger variety of what they grow, and not just rely on rice and yeah, and cashew nut, you know.
Yes, sir. Cashew nut.
Yeah. But I don't know what
Actually,
you're making your bio fertilizer from. It must be some kind of a waste byproduct.
we make from the firstly from the vegetables and rotten fruits, and also
Okay,
mix
it's
with
compost.
the
It's compost.
other. Yes, it's a
Right, compost.
decomposed. Yes.
Okay, so nitrogen and carbon mixed creates soil. Yeah, okay, that's good to hear. That's good
Yes,
to hear.
thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ang. Let's go to Lerato. Lerato, let me ask you to unmute. I see your hand up.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, I actually put something on the chats, but I can share that here now that you called my name.
Please.
I was just saying that here at home in Lesotho, we normally use chicken waste for our garden, and it's doing very well. It's chicken, and also we use dead plants. We make compost, like you earlier said, and they seem to be doing very well.
Absolutely. I mean, I can create compost within 8 days in a small tub, right? It's just a matter of understanding what you're putting in there. So you need nitrogen, you need carbon, and then you need some kind of a process that initiates the organisms. So I mean, I just use urine, right? I just pee on the compost, and that starts the process. But you can use sugar water or whatever, right? If you don't want to do that,
Exactly.
but that starts, and then the organisms come into play, and it's initiated. And as long as you keep turning that, it will turn into, it's incredible. It's incredible. And then all of a sudden, in 2 weeks, you have this beautiful, rich soil in your hand, and you can smell it, and everything will grow in it. So, and yes, if you have access to chicken waste and rotten vegetables, that's your beginning.
Thank you. Yes, that's true.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Nathan O'Hara. Hi, Nathan. Good to see you.
Oh, I don't see Nathan.
Hello,
Hello, Nathan.
hello, hi. Hello,
Hello.
Hi, Nathan.
see
Great to
you.
see you.
I'm okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good morning and good evening. Here in Uganda is around 6:30 in the evening, 7. I have a question for the presenter. Yes.
Yes.
This regards the fertilizers and the compost. Now, if somebody like some Nigerian asked that with the with the increase in populations, people are now forced to continue using their little gardens without allowing it to fallow. Now, I don't know if there are particular fertilizers which is somebody would have to consult on before using in particular kinds of crops. Yeah,
Yes.
that is one. Two, there are issues whereby somebody may say there are certain chemicals which go into the ground and may interfere with the quality of the product from the gardens. I don't know how far true that could be and what kind of chemicals exactly somebody should take precaution about and with what type of crops.
Wow.
Then
Yeah.
my third question is about planting of trees in the gardens. There are those trees which have a tendency of suppressing the growth of crops. There are those which can allow control of the weather situation in the gardens. And there are those which actually have a tendency of just diminishing the value of the soil. Now, I don't know if we can have some advice regarding the trees, the spacings, if somebody has to involve trees to control the quality of his land and the quality of the crops to come. Those are my 3 questions for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, you answered your own question.
Oh.
If the type of tree that you're planting is diminishing the soil of what you want to grow your crops in, then you don't plant those trees. In creating an atmosphere that you can grow crops in, you have to look at, okay, what kind of trees can I have that also can produce some kind of a beneficial food source, and also that can produce something that when it dies or when it falls, it creates nitrogen for the soil. So, and these trees in Uganda exist everywhere. So then it's a matter of understanding the placement of your agriculture in how to, this is agroforestry. So it's growing crops between the trees so that the trees are providing nitrogen for the soil, and this is food for your crops, right? And it will just continue. It's nature. But if you have trees, and it's a matter of understanding the tree too, you might have to adjust what kind of crops you grow, right? Yeah, you have to be flexible. Nature is flexible. So you can't decide that you're just going to grow long beans and have mango trees, because the mango is acidic and it gets into the soil and the beans won't like it. But if you're producing a vegetable like a tomato or something like that that prefers a little bit acidic soil, then they will be happy together for sure.
True that. True that.
You have to look at what supports the other. They have in native Canada, Native America, it's called the Three Sisters, and basically it's corn, beans, and squash. And when these are grown together, they protect each other from insects, they protect each other from weather, and they will all be successful because they integrate so well together.
Sometimes I've done a lot of mulching and compost in my little gardens, but some trees, like the fruit trees especially, I still see they dry up with time. At the beginning, they may look very healthy, but with time, I see the leaves starting to dry, and eventually the trees themselves die off. Some of them are infected by something like worms. Now, in this token, does it necessarily mean I have to contact the agricultural institutions for soil tests regarding the crops, and or having to get some person to come and check the trees for any forms of infections? Or
I mean, are your neighbors having the same issues? Is it like an area issue, or is it an issue just within your garden?
it is general. Neighbors have it.
Okay.
Sometimes the drugs recommended may not even quite work. Sometimes they think there are some chemicals in the soil which seem to be affecting the plants themselves, much as on the surface somebody may see by eye that it is otherwise fertile garden.
Okay.
We have also,
So,
like in Uganda, the issue of the banana wilt, whereby
okay, yes.
even if the garden seems to be having a lot of nutrients, but the bananas still die when they get the wilt disease, which has never had a proper treatment yet, where I know.
I mean, I'm not familiar with it. You need to go online and study it and find people. And this is where community is so important. Find somebody that's been successful in dealing with it, and then you just have to try different things all the time. But for sure, there is a natural solution to it somewhere.
Nathan, do you know someone in your neighborhood or nearby neighborhoods that has a successful tree as you're describing, like that particular tree? Can you find one tree that seems to be thriving, and maybe find out from the owner if there's something unique or different that he did? That might be the best way, to communicate with other locals, or maybe not locals, but nearby, maybe not right next to you, but maybe, a kilometer or a few kilometers. Yeah.
True that.
Okay.
Immediate neighbors with the healthy trees or along the lines I'm talking are not there, but maybe if I have to do a research and check up farms elsewhere.
Yes.
Within the country, yeah, maybe. And again, I wanted to ask one further question. If, for example, somebody is planting or wants to specialize in planting like maize, for example, year in, year out, is it okay to mulch the soil with maize stems and leaves? Is it okay? That is
Of
to
course.
say, after harvesting, you allow those the stems and the leaves to rot there.
Of course, it's the only way to put nutrients back in the soil. I think if you just grow maize year after year after year, then you're going to need some kind of additional nitrogen fixer to keep that soil healthy. So, I mean, it could be as easy as building a pond and having ducks and watering that maize field with the water that the ducks have been using. This will add nitrogen. That's the only way to sustainably continue to grow the same crop over and over. You need to introduce something from outside. So yes.
Okay. Okay.
To answer your question,
like
is yes.
Combination of
yes.
other
Yeah.
compost materials as well.
Right. Exactly. But to leave the stems and stuff there, yeah, absolutely, it will turn back into soil.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fine. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you, Nathan. And Dirk, we have a question from Dirk Witte. We're getting close to the top of the hour. I don't know what your time is like. I want to respect your time. We do have a few hands up. Should we proceed?
Yeah, we can proceed for another few minutes, and then
thank you.
Yeah, then okay.
Thank you, Dirk. Okay, so Dirk Witte, Olana,
yes.
hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good to see you.
Hello.
Thank you. Hello. May I continue? I have one question.
Yeah, continue.
The presenter.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm working for one of faith-based development organization here in Ethiopia, and we usually work on sustainable, low external input, sustainable agriculture. Is that what you have just presented is similar to that one? Because in sustainable, in laser, we call it laser, we use compost and also intercropping and other methods, and we are not in favor of adding commercial fertilizer. Is that similar to what you have already presented?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have to avoid commercial fertilizers. I mean, there's some fertilizers out there, if you know what you're actually putting into the soil, that can be beneficial, but they're expensive and you don't need them. You don't need them if you have the right knowledge of what you can yourself produce that works within a symbiotic system. Like, I guess that's where I'm getting at. It's difficult for me to talk about sustainable agriculture on a massive scale because it's an oxymoron. There is no sustainable agriculture on a massive scale. There has to be a diversity to it. So if you have a diversity, then it's a closed loop system. And as long as you're gearing toward a closed loop system and you're in control of all the aspects of that closed loop system, you will always be successful. It might take some time in order to gather the knowledge, and you have to test different things, and not everything works together as it should. But within a few years, you will become sustainable to the point where you have to do very little effort as well. The system itself will take care of the system. That is permaculture, yes.
Abdul Rahman, thank you for joining us. Let me ask you to unmute. Okay, please go ahead, Abdul.
All right, thank you very much. I'm very happy
Hello,
to
Abdul.
be here, even though I joined this session a little bit late, but I have been following up with the discussions and the questions. And I am from Sierra Leone, and I want to ask maybe just two questions, relating to permaculture. In Sierra Leone, for example, in the inland valley swamps, we're introducing a system wherein we use the valley bottom as well as the topo sequence or the continuum of the valley, wherein we give the necessary water control infrastructures in the valley swamp, in the inland valley swamp for rice cultivation, and in the slopes, right, the topo sequence, we do different crops. For example, in the lower slopes or you know, or the hydromorphic zone, we do, for example, pineapples. Then we'll move further upwards, we'll do banana or plantain. Then further upwards, we do mangoes. And when we get to the pluvial zone, we do forest trees. So I just want to know whether that is also a form of permaculture. That is one. Two, when I joined this session, I heard you talking about the acidity and how to use oyster shells. And here in Sierra Leone, of course, we have abundance of water resources. But our challenge here is the soil condition, where our soils are acidic, up to about 4.8. And you will agree with me that the soil is where life begins. Even if we have abundance of water, if the soil condition is poor, then definitely we have poor crops and poor yields and poor health, and so it continues. So you did say that we can use oyster shells, we grind oyster shells. So I just want to know the rate of application of these shells, oyster shells. Thank you very much.
The rate of application.
Yeah, per hectare, for example, yes. How many kilograms per hectare of ground oyster shells you will apply? So to actually address acidity.
Well, I mean, that's a try as you go method. I don't know if there's any kind of a quotient that you would use to that. I mean, I can give you an example. I would just break up the shells with a hammer, and in 1 meter square, I would get a bag of shells and crush them up. And this is a problem I had in Myanmar, is the soil is so acidic. So I just ground up those with a hammer and then threw them into the soil. And after a period of time, the soil became much more alkaline very quickly. So I had a pH balance of 7 within probably 3 to 4 months.
Great.
So, and I think you can, I think you can add as many as you want. It's not going to hurt the soil if it's acidic.
Okay.
So basically for 1 meter, approximately, would you say it was that bag of shells would it be about half a kilogram, or would it be 1 kilogram?
Yeah, no, about half a kilogram. Yes.
Half a kilogram per meter. Right. And it depends on the person. Right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Teboho. How are you, Teboho? Tell me, you have another contribution for us. Please go ahead.
Yes, question to Dirk. Let's see now. Help me to understand how you then control weeds, and obviously now insects included with that, and then also how to make the farm more energy efficient, you know, with our high fuel and energy prices that we are seeing.
Okay, well, I mean, as far as weeds are concerned, that's a soil issue. You have to understand what kind of weeds that you have in there. If you have a compacted soil, you're gonna have weeds with a long root. If you have a loose soil, it's a matter of understanding the soil, and not all weeds are necessarily bad. So you need to, if the weeds are defeating your crop growth, then you have to look at that weed, and you can normally eradicate it through soil adjustment. For sure, you can always eradicate it through soil adjustment, or by adding some kind of chickens. You want to get rid of weeds, bring in chickens now, or ducks. Ducks are the best thing because ducks don't hurt whatever crops you're growing. Chickens, you have to wait until your crops are a certain size and then you can bring them in. But ducks, no, they will attack the pests, they'll attack the weeds, they'll eat it. So it's a matter of integrating something. The problem is the solution, right? So the problem is the weeds growing. Okay, the solution is we have another asset. If you have it, like ducks, now you're implementing ducks. So now you have another source of eggs and food and stuff like that. So again, it's diversification. And as far as managing the energy, then it's a matter of understanding you can create gas through biodigestion, right? If you have animals like chickens or horses or any kind of animals, goats, you can use that plus your compost to create a biodigester, and there's your gas. So there's your cooking done. And then as far as electrical energy, I mean, wind, solar, it's a matter of finding the right person that knows how to integrate that in there at the cheapest possible cost. I mean, it's if you have a lot of financial resources, then it's easy. But if you don't, then you have to think outside the box and find different examples that you can integrate.
Great. So a lower scale example would be take your compost that you already have, put some kind of a lid on it, and siphon off the gas for cooking. Fantastic. Olivette Linda Barnett, please join us. How are you? Great to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm also happy to see you guys, and I'm happy for the session, culture, even though I came late. I'm working at the Ministry of Tourism and Cultural Affairs in Sierra Leone. I'm attached to the Sierra Leone National Museum as the cultural officer and also education outreach officer. But almost about 10 years ago and more, I've been engaging in tourism, like a tourist guide, a national tourist guide, and so on and so forth. My question now towards the is concerning our environment. We have trees in our environment where I'm staying, and also at the same time we have a garden. This is like a community garden, but we have a certain pest that is destroying these plants. You can see the pest so white like flowers. They eat up the leaves, and then you see a lot of holes within those leaves. And we've been trying to see how best we can treat these plants so that these plants will go, because we have, and West Africa, Sierra Leone has one of the highest and sunlight and all these things. And so we've been thinking about it, but there was a time when I was having a tourist from America, and then she gave an advice that we should use vinegar. We should use it as a spray to spray the plant. We spray it for a month, we see it coming over and again, the same thing. So I really need an advice towards that. Even though I'm not an agriculturist.
I can't really help unless I understand what the pest is. I kind of need to know what kind of pest it is. Is it like tiny little white?
Yes, very tiny and white, like flowers.
Okay.
But they eat up the plant.
Well, there's a couple ways. I think I know what you're dealing with. There's a couple ways to deal with it quite easily. You can introduce a little insect called a ladybug if you can get those. And I think what you're talking about is aphids. It's quite common everywhere in the world. But I might be wrong, but that's what I think it is. And if you introduce, do you know what a ladybug is? That's those cute little beetles with the red and black spots on its back. They're very friendly. They will destroy those aphids if you can introduce those. But the other thing you can do, which is much easier, is get old tobacco, find somebody who smokes or whatever, collect all their old cigarette butts, put it in water, leave it for a while, and then spray that on the leaves, and that will eradicate them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wow, great advice. Fantastic, Dirk. It looks like we're solving problems as we go.
That's good.
On Yait, Paul, thank you for raising your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. It's nice to meet White for the experience. I have one question that I need to ask. For us, actually, I come from Uganda. That is the western part of Uganda. That is Masaka. So I want to ask this. In most cases, when we are clearing our weeds, we use chemicals. Like example, like weed masters. But I want to have at least an idea to know, does this weed masters, do they affect the organisms? And if they affect, how long can they stay in the ground? Because I always see after spraying, the weeds dry, yes, but they take long to decompose. But with or without the experience of farming, I want to understand, how does it affect the organism? And if it affects, for how long can it take? I mean, for how long can it take for the soil to recover its fertility? Thank you.
I'm not familiar with the chemical that you've mentioned.
Weed master, he mentioned, but yeah.
Weed masters.
Okay.
Weed masters. Yeah, we need to know the chemical composition of that to be able to, for him to be able to suggest.
It's if I can guess, it's probably Roundup. It's probably a Monsanto product called Roundup, and it will take years. It will take years for your soil to become healthy again. You need to stop using that right away and start integrating a holistic approach to regenerate your soil. It'll take years for your soil to become healthy after using that. It's a chemical that you can't stop using once you start.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Last question, Dirk. I know it's getting late for you. It's even getting dark.
Yeah, I'm in the dark area. Well, I can get up and turn the light on. I guess.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay. Okay.
Sunil, I saw you've had your hand up for quite a while. I wanted to call on you and allow you to participate. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, we can hear you now.
Yes.
The question was that in permaculture, it's a kind of new field to me in terms of the bit I got from the lecture. Most of it had to do with the integration of animals and so forth, using the waste from them to what you call it, give nutrients and provide nutrients for sustenance of the plants and herbs, whatever you're growing. But what about in case where you don't have that luxury of animals or fishery? Can permaculture be present? As the first question. The second question,
well, I mean,
is that with you will have a lot of fungus being present. How you deal with that?
Well, first of all, I love that you say that you don't have the luxury of animal waste. Not having the luxury of having animal waste is music to my ears. I love to hear that. I mean, there's several options. You live in a community, find out what people are throwing away. Compost is basically vegetable based, carbon and nitrogen. If you have restaurants that are throwing it away, a good compost you can even throw meat into, although I don't recommend it unless you really know what you're doing. But you always have access. It's a matter of finding the resource for free. So waste is a pretty available resource everywhere in the world. People normally give it away. So it's just a matter of engaging your community and finding it. I mean, if you're in a city, if you're in a big city and all you have is your little apartment patio to grow a garden on, then consider having a fish tank and using that fish water when you clean the tank to supply nitrogen to your vegetables. There's always a solution somewhere in there, right? There's always a solution somewhere in there.
Fantastic.
And the second question was about
go ahead.
The second question was the use those natural form of doing agriculture, as in this case permaculture, always have that tendency to have more fungus or susceptible to more fungus. How we treat that?
Fungus.
Yeah.
That's a really broad question. What's creating the fungus? Is it humidity? Is it the fungus is broad subject. You have to kind of be able to identify what the fungus is, and then is the fungus being created by humidity? Okay, if it's not, then yeah, that's a tough one to answer unless you actually can investigate the soil or you can see it, right? But fungus is normally caused by too much humidity. So then it's a matter of trying to understand how your irrigation works, that your soil is becoming too moist, right? You have to find that balance.
Fantastic. With that, unfortunately, I have to say that our time has come to an end. But Dirk, we've had a tremendous engagement from our students today,
Yes.
and we'd love to invite you back. I think just from listening to the types of questions, I think we could come with several topics or sessions that maybe can bring some common practices or examples
Sure.
or suggestions on how to pair crops together, how to manage the pH of the soil. There's so many things that I think the challenge is that the world is so vast and there's so many different plants and systems and soils that we just have to have maybe multiple examples of things that work in different zones, and maybe that would be a fantastic topic or topics to discuss in the future.
Okay. Sure.
But
yeah,
thank you
absolutely.
so much for being here today
Yeah,
and
it was
sharing
fun.
your expertise.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank
yeah,
you.
it was fun.
Thank you to
Thanks,
all of our
everybody.
students. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
After everyone.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
You,
Bye.
cheers.
Thank you
so
all.
much. It has been so
Thank you.
wonderful.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye
It's glad
bye.
to be here.
Bye.
We'll be happy to be here again.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Hope to see you again.
All. Take
Yeah.
care. Ciao,
Yes,
ciao.
hope to see you again.
Ciao.
Cheers.
All right. See you, Ricardo. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.